أهلا بيكم يا شباب والسلام عليكم أولا، وكل سنة وأنتم طيبين وعام سعيد عليكم يا رب، وأتمنى لكم كل التوفيق. آم، طبعا زي ما أنتم شايفين ياما قعدت أكلمكم على إن المحاضرات عاوزينها تبقى نكمل يعني الترم، نهاية الترم وإحنا بنتكلم جوه الكلاس مع بعض. لكن لعل خيرا يعني. احنا فاضل لنا بس 3 lectures، يعني احنا in week 13، والفاضل just 2 weeks وعندنا بعد كده الفاينل اكزام. زي ما انتم عارفين ان احنا السيستم بتاعنا ما اتغيرش، احنا زي ما احنا هنمشي على نفس البروسيجرز احنا كنا ماشيين عليها. السكشنز كانت بتاعتكم اونلاين والاكزام بتاعكم اونلاين. الحاجه الوحيده اللي جدت هو ان المحاضره بتاعتنا هتبقى اونلاين كمان بدل ما كانت اون كامبس. otherwise احنا ماشيين في منهجنا بنفس الواي اوف اسسمنت اللي احنا كنا متفقين عليه. وزي ما اقول لكم ده طبعا لامانكم واماننا كلنا، وان شاء الله تعدي الايام يعني على خير. انا بس يعني التراديشنال ادفايس، خلي بالك عن نفسك، بلاش تنزل كتير الايام دي، خلاص الكليه بقت كلها اونلاين. حاول تقلل النزول بتاعك as much as possible. آم، الماسك والكحول والجل والحاجات دي كلها اساسيه. بلاش خروجات، بلاش كوبري ستانلي بتاعك اللطيف ده، بلاش. يعني شهر بس الجنيوري بس يعدي على خير وإن شاء الله بعد كده الدنيا تبقى أحسن حال يعني. آه، إحنا النهاردة هنكمل عادي في التوبيك بتاعنا، بس قبل ما نكمل في التوبيك والكورس بتاعنا، أنا حابب إن أنا أشير معاكم حاجة جديدة. يمكن من ضمن الحاجات كنت قايل لكم عليها، وهي الخاصة بالجزء بتاع الإلاستيستي. اوكي. زي ما انتم شايفين كده قدامكم اهو ظهر. ده الويب سايت بتاع كارفور، وهو نفس العروض اللي موجودة. لو تلاحظوا، احنا اتكلمنا اخر مرة على الالاستيستي، وقلنا ان الالاستيستي هي measure of sensitivity relation between, or mainly we are talking about the price elasticity of demand. ف price elasticity of demand, the relation between prices and quantity, by how much the quantity will change when the price change, even when it increase or decrease. زي ما انتم شايفين ان احنا كنا اتكلمنا عن الريليشن بين الالاستيستي والتوتال ريفينيو. بصوا شايفين الاوفرز. دايما احنا قلنا when the product is elastic، يعني more than one، equal one, more than one، يعني at the end we are talking about elastic demand curve. So do a reduction. If it's inelastic, raise the price. And this is the most popular discount يعني يمكن in Egypt. عروض كارفور ريدكشنز ولا السيل بتاع كارفور هو اكتر حاجه بتأثر. لو جيتوا بصيتوا يا شباب هتلاقوا ان mainly 95 من ديسكاونت رايحه لبرودكت الاستيك. البرايسز اللي انتوا شايفينها قدامكم دي، البرايسز دي ما بتتحسمش راندوملي، يعني مش بنزل على السكرين دي 1000 وبنزل على دي 2000 ولا على دي 500 راندوملي. الكلام ده بيزد على الالاستيستي. فاحنا عندنا هيستوريكال داتا، يعني احنا بنتكلم مثلا في 18 years موجود فيهم كارفور في مصر. during ال 18 previous 18 years دولت احنا عندنا الكوانتيتي وعندنا البرايسز. فسيمبلي اقدر اشوف التشينج بيحصل ازاي، وبالتالي اقدر اميجر الاستيستي، وبالتالي اقدر اقول when I will reduce the price by 15% like here. Okay, so I expected my total revenue will be X, will increase of course by the revenue or the sales of this uh, jack. I think jack screen will increase by 20%, by 25%. Okay, ف the same الماشين والاوفن والوش ماشين والدراير والاوفن يعني والكيتشن ماشين والهيتر، كل الحاجات دي elastic. يعني ايه again elastic؟ يعني it's not necessary, is not urgent, so urgent, it's important in our life, but we have the same devices in our home, so it's not critical product. You can find a lot of alternative substitutes. uh, a laptop as well, mobile phone who need to change. So if the price of the mobile change to be higher than before, so you say, yeah, okay, I have my phone. It's not urgent to buy mobile now. But when I found that 35% discount on smartphone, okay, let me try. Okay, washing machine the same, كل الكيتشن equipment، شايفين كل الريدكشن 95% من الريدكشن بيحصل على الالاستيك برودكت. اوكي، هنيجي نلاقي بقى ده في essential جروسلي اهو موجود على برودكت. طب ما هي دي حاجات الالاستيستي بتاعتها اقل. بس تعالى نخش جوه الحاجات دي، هنلاقي مثلا ان الماجوريتي من الريدكشن جايه على الباستا، على الايطاليان باستا which is not common product in Egypt، يعني it's luxury product. فهنا الايطاليان باستا دي elastic، يعني it's a باستا، والباستا دي in elastic in important. بس احنا هنا بنتكلم على تايبس معينه من الاويل، من التونه، من الباستا، كاتشب هاينز. يعني احنا بنتكلم هنا على حاجات لاكشري، سكر الاسره، مش دي الكومن برودكت بالنسبه للماجوريتي من الايجيبشن بيبل. وخلي بالك من نقطة كمان مهمة، إن most of these products الديسكاونت come from the company itself. يعني هتلاقي مثلا إن دولفين تونة هي اللي عاملة الريدكشن، وكارفور هو just بروموت البرودكت. فأنا عايز أقول لكم هنا my witness here ان احنا we are studying elasticity because elasticity is very important in our life, mainly anything related to the pricing determined by elasticity. Okay, طيب. So this is just an example for what just happening now, last week and this week. So let's go to our traditional whiteboard. So we're still stuck on it. Okay. So we start our course by studying economics, right? So we're studying economics. And then we go through microeconomics when we try to analyze the behavior of individual. And then we go to analyzing market theory. So in the market, we found two sides: demand and supply. Demand representing by consumer, while supply represented by seller and producers. So together, so we have a demand side, it is negative slope, and supply side with positive slope, until we reach to the market. Okay, let me change color. So until we reach to market equilibrium. Market equilibrium. when the demand and supply become in one side. Uh, so this is until this, and after that we have some application action on the market. Mainly we are when we are talking about uh, price ceiling and price floor. Okay. So after we finish that, we go to an important point, which is elasticity. So elasticity is a measurement of responsiveness for the change for demand and supply to complete the market theory. So elasticity, we have two types of elasticity: elasticity related to demand and other elasticity related to supply. So the price elasticity of demand, and we have income elasticity, which is the relation between income and demand, and the cross elasticity, which is the relation between the change on the price of change in the price of product X and the demand of product Y. And we finished that by price elasticity of supply. Um, for both cases, elasticity was measured by when we have what will happen here, so the action over reaction. Okay, or we can say something happened first, so this is independent, and something reactive for that, so this is dependent variable. Until here, we finish the first part of microeconomic course when we try to analyze the behavior of individual, whether they are consumer or seller. The second part, which is analyze the consumer behavior. And this is maybe in more advanced courses for microeconomics, because mainly we are talking about how the individual takes their decision based on different theory, like theory of utility or indifference curve. Uh, but as we are studying business, mainly business economics, so we are more interested to studying the behavior of seller or producer. And this is the third part, and this is the last part in our course. So the first part is just a generic uh, part talking about the market uh, and the interaction between consumer and seller. The second part, which is try to analyze the consumer behavior in more details. And the third part, which is try to analyze uh, the behavior and the pattern of producer and seller. Okay? And this is what we will go for. So what we try to do in the next three lectures is try to analyze the behavior of producer, or we can say this is production theory، نظرية الإنتاج. So how we can understand the production theory؟ احنا دلوقتي عايزين نفهم البروديوسر ده يا جماعة، how he produced، how he managed his business. احنا again our main purpose احنا في المايكرو ايكونومكس عايزين نفهم to understand how people take their action in the production theory when they produce something new, when they opening their business, when they operate their business or project, of course from economic perspective. So we said before uh, that we opening business simply for profit, right? If you remember, this is from the supply side, and the way to measure the profit or loss, of course, but mainly we are talking about the profit. So what is our revenue, and then what is our cost? Okay, so the revenue minus cost, or actually we have three component. We have a three component, okay, for any production: profit, revenue, and cost. So the first part is to know how to measure the cost. In order to measure the cost, we have to measure first what is the cost, production cost. What is the production cost? So production cost is come from something called production function. Production function. So what is a production function? This is a variable who determines the production. هي العوامل اللي بتخليني أعرف أنتج. Okay. So the first thing we need to know or to need to measure, what is a production function first. Second, we need to know how we measure the cost. Okay, and the type, of course, and so on. The third part, we need to measure the revenue. The third part, or the fourth part, is to calculate now the profit. So we'll start this part. First, calculate or measure the production function, and then measure the cost, and then measure the revenue, and then we'll be able to measure the profit. Okay. Let's start by the production. Again, we are talking about the production in short term. Okay. يعني احنا مش محتاجين نخش في more details. فاحنا we are talking about two types of production: production in long term and production in short term. Let me share the PowerPoint. Uh, Okay. So this is a production function. So what is a production function? This is the unit which we need to produce. عوامل الإنتاج اللي احنا you remember اللي احنا اتكلمنا عنه. طيب if you remember we have four function of production. عندنا كم؟ عندنا 4 عوامل if you remember. We said that we have land. hmm? We have land. We have labor. We have machine and capital. And we have someone who organized the production. So land or any national resources needed for the production, okay, this is land. The farmer he works on the project on the farm, labor. The machine, the capital, and the entrepreneur. So at the end we have four variable of production. بس احنا نقدر نقول حاجة كمان. We can possible to say that the farmer and the entrepreneurs both are under the human capital variable. So we have a human capital, whether the human capital is just a labor, is just a worker, or is a manager. Okay, and we can say this is capital we need, and the national resources is together is the capital. So it's possible to say that the production is function of what? Function of labor and capital. So two main factor of production: number of workers, the labor variable, and the capital. Okay, type. In the short term, the capital is constant. So in the short term, if you are producing in the short term, you are not possible to you are not possible to change the capital variable. Okay, يعني if you have مثلا fixed assets still will be the same. If you have a production line عندك خطوط إنتاج 1 or 2 or 3 or whatever the amount is, so it is still constant. So the amount of capital in the short term is fixed. The only variable change in the short term is labor, number of workers in your organization. So it's possible to hire or to fire people in any time of the production line. But when you need to do a big or a significant change in your production, like to change number of the machine you have, like to change the production line you have. So this is will be in the long term. Okay. So clear. Okay. So the production is function of labor and capital, or labor is the number of workers and the capital and number of machine, or the cash, or any type of capital you have. Okay, so in the short term, the labor change, but the capital not change. Capital is fixed. While in the long term, most all the variable it changed. Okay, يبقى in economics, in terms of economics, short term and long term is not like in accounting. In accounting, the matter is different. So you have in short term, less than year, mid term, so from 1 to 3, I think, and for long term, you have more than 3 years or 5 years. So it's function of the time. But here in economics, it's function of your ability to change your factor of production. Okay. Right. So we have three variable here, three definitions. The first one, which is the total product. Oh, okay. Total product is the amount of what we produced. So we produced 10 t-shirts, so the total output is 10 t-shirts. Thousands. Okay. The second definition is average product. The average product. What is the average? So we produce 10, and we are just 2 workers. So simply each one of us produce 5. This is a very simple meaning of average. So the average is how much you produce uh, by each number of workers. Okay. So the total output and or over the total units of labor, number of workers we have. The last one is marginal product. Marginal. Maybe the first time to hear to marginal term. Marginal in Arabic mean الحدي. Okay. So what is the meaning of حدي or marginal? Let's say marginal is the additional unit. Marginal is the additional last unit or the added value. Maybe it's possible to say this is the added value. Marginal, the productivity of each labor you have. So let's say, or I have an example later. I will show the example later. Let's go for this table. Right? So this table shows the capital input. Capital. So the capital is fixed. Whether the change in the level of production. Let's say you have 2 machines in your. This is this example is about sandwich, fast food sandwich. So you have 2 cooking machines. Okay. So let's start level by level. So if you don't have any workers, okay, so you didn't produce any sandwich, simply. But now you hired one to work in the restaurant. How many production he produced? He produced 10 sandwiches per hour. So the first worker in your restaurant produced 10 sandwiches per hour. So of course his productivity is 10 and his average product is as well 10. So it's very easy. But now let's go for another example. When I hired another one, so I have 2 workers working in the restaurant. 2 workers. How many sandwiches they produce per hour? They produce 25 sandwiches. Okay. So before I hired the second worker, we produced 10, but now we produce 25. That's mean the second worker increased the production by 15 sandwich. Now, if I need to change to measure on average, how many sandwich each one of them produced? Okay, so if they are 2 and they produce 25, So each one of them, on average, they produce 12 and a half sandwich. More example. Now you hired the third workers. So they are three now. So after you hire the third worker, they produce together, they produce 45 sandwich. 45 sandwich they produce together as a three worker in your restaurant. So before you hire you remember, last, because we are talking about marginal. Okay? So the last one, before I hired the last one, the production was 25. Now the production is 45. That's mean the last worker increased my production by 20 sandwich per hour. Okay. So if I need to measure the average, on average, so if they are three workers and they produce 45 sandwich, so that's mean on average each one of them produce 15 sandwich. Okay, it makes sense. And so on. In each time I increase number of workers, I'm increasing my total output. So if you hire the fourth one, so the output is 60. So he increased the production by 15, because before he arrived it was 45 and now it's 60. So that's mean he produced 15 alone. He produced 15 sandwich. And on average, of course, we are not interested in economics in the average measure, because it's maybe biased analysis. You know why? Because here I'm saying that in this one, I'm saying that each one on average produce 15 sandwich, which is not true. Someone produced 10, someone produced 15, someone produced 20, and someone produced 15. So saying that 15 on average maybe is biased, مضلل, متحيز. Okay, it's not accurate measure, by the way, average, because someone will produce very high and someone produce very low, but on average will be in the middle. So average in economics, or average in general, doesn't reflect the reality. So what is the reflect the reality? This one, the marginal concept. Okay. So uh, still we continue hiring more people to raise the number of total output, but you can see here that uh, the marginal or the added value or the contribution become lower and lower in each time I'm hiring more people. Yes, still the total output increase, but his contribution become lower and lower until I'm hiring worker number 7. He didn't add anything for my production, so his productivity is zero. And what a surprise, worker number 8, after I'm hiring him and paying a salary and wages for him, I found that my production become lower than before. That's mean he contribute negatively to my production. So what's going on? What is the meaning of this table? How we can understand this changes? Okay. So in the first, the as long as the production increase, here this is increasing number of workers, okay, and the total output increase as well, starting from 0 to 20 to 75. So the production increase, yes, but the way of increase is different. First, when I'm hired, the first one he produced by 10, and then by 15, and then by 20. Oh, that's mean the productivity of each one working with me is more than before. Why? You know, the item is the wisdom is together we achieve more. ها؟ لما نشتغل مع بعض نطلع أكتر. If you are working alone, separately, each one of them will work 10 sandwich, 10 sandwich. So the output should be 20. But if we work and cooperate together, and this is the effect of cooperation. If you're studying alone economics, you're studying 2 units of economics and 2 units from mathematics, and your friend as well, the same. But if you work together, maybe you able to studying more units from economics and mathematics because you cooperate together. And this is what happened here. When the worker become work together, they achieve more than on work separately. So the first one produced 10, the second is 15, and the third one is 20. Why? Because the cooperation between them. So the way of total product increase by increasing rate, simply because marginal increase. After the worker number 4, okay, after here, when I'm increasing number of workers, yes, still the total product increase. They still increase the production. The output is still increase. But you can see here the contribution of each worker become lower than before. I usually have a يعني, personal example where when I arrived this college, CITL, in 2009, I was before in working in Miami branch business college, and now I moved with Dr. Khaled when he became dean for the college. Uh, so I was the only economist or studying someone teaching economics in the college. So the contribution of me is very high, simply because I'm the only one who does that. And then we hired another staff, the second staff, the Dr. Angie nowadays, but now in Emirates. They when we cooperate together, we're teaching more number of classes, and then Mr. Islam Hanafi and so on. So now in each time we hired more people, number of coursing of economics increase. But now, because we are a lot of staff teaching economics, who now come to college to teach, he just teach a few classes, like 1 or 2 class. Why? Simply because we almost reach to saturation level اللي هو مستوى التشبع. بدأنا يبقى عددنا كتير، وبالتالي اللي هيجي هياخد part صغير, not like before. Okay, so in each time you hired people, maybe the contribution of each one you hire become lower. يعني هنا مثلا احنا بنتكلم على الريستورant, okay, we making sandwiches, maybe the capacity of the kitchen is small, is not enough. You're taking 1, 2, 3, 4, more than this. We didn't find enough space to stand. You didn't find enough equipment to use to produce sandwich. So you wait someone to finish, and then you use another equipment and so on. So in this case, yes, still the output increase, but not like before. So here the production increased by 15, here increased by 20, but here is still increased, but 15 and 10 and 5. So that means still the number of output increase, but take care. Take care, because the way of increasing is become decreasing. Okay. طيب. Until to reach worker number 7. Oh, number 7 doesn't have any contribution. Still, the productivity or the output, total output, constant, not change. So he hired new one, but he didn't add to your business. قاعد ما لقاش شغل خلاص، هو اتس انف، ما لقاش مكان اصلا في الكيتشن عشان يقف فيه، فالراجل زي عدم بالظبط. يعني لو احنا if you need to understand the phenomena of the protection, you can looking for any public working places. روح كده لأي مصلحة حكومية، شوف الشهر العقاري كم موظف شغال، روح كده السجل المدني شوف كم موظف شغال، روح مجمع التحرير، روح إدارة الجوازات، روح أي حتة public places وشوف البرودكتيفيتي بتاعت كل واحد. هتلاقي ناس احنا because we over staffing خلاص، فهنلاقي ان البرودكتيفيتي بتاع كل واحد is very low. وفي ناس ما بتشتغلش اصلا، قاعد هو زمايله عملوا الشغل خلاص، هو الشغل المفروض يكتبوا مثلا 5، هم 20 واحد في الاوفيس، ف what's supposed to happen. ففي ناس اوريدي ما بتشتغلش. فده this is the meaning of the productivity zero. طب ايه بقى البرودكتيفيتي بالنيجاتيف؟ ما انا جبت واحد وشغلته، بدأ بقى ايه يضايق اللي جنبه. أوكي. بدأ يبقى ياخد منه الايكوبمنت اللي هو كان بيستخدمها لو احنا بنتكلم على الساندوتش، او هو لقى ان هو ملوش اي لازمه وان وجوده مش موجود، فبقى ماسك الموبايل وقاعد بيشغل اغاني ولا يشغل كذا، او يبدا يكلم زمايله بص شفت ايه، فيبدا يعمل لهم ايه ويستنج للافورت وللتايم بتاعهم. وبالتالي لو كان الاولاني ده كان بينتج مثلا بروديوس 10 ساندوتش بير داي، او اخر واحد ده كان 5، فلما التاني بدا يكلمه ويعطله بقى بينتج 3 ساندوتش. وبالتالي هنا اعتبر ان الراجل اللي انا جبته الجديد ده بقى بدا يضرني، وبدات البرودكتيفيتي بتاعتي تبقى نيجاتيف. طيب hope it's clear for you. طيب انت بقى بتحكي لنا الفيلم الهندي ده ليه؟ خلاص احنا فهمنا، يبقى احنا عندنا 3 stages للبرودكشن. الفيرست ستيج ان بيحصل increasing للمارجنال. السكند ستيج ان بيحصل decreasing او diminishing للمارجنال ذات نفسه. الثيرد ستيج ان انا عندي النيجاتيف مارجنال اوتبوت. ده الثري ستيج للبرودكشن. طيب ايه بقى الهدف من الفيلم الهندي ده؟ ان احنا to know how many people we need for our production. Normal people working here looking for this one and this one. So you're looking for the number of labor and the total output. So you still hire people as long as you find that your total output increase. But as economists, we are big interest in the concept of marginal, because marginal measure the productivity of each one of them. Okay, so if you need to evaluate your employees, so you need to check what is the contribution of each one of them, what is the added value each one of them. So this is through the marginal concept. Okay. طيب. So what is the ideal or the best fit number of workers for this restaurant? Again, it depends for the policy of the restaurant or the organization, but you will still hire people. So you still hire people until to reach to here. Okay. And you will stop hire people before to reach to here. Okay. So the best number working in your organization could be 4 or 5 or maybe 6. Okay. But you have to hire the fourth labor and you have to stop after 6. So the best number of worker in this restaurant from 4 to 6 workers. It depends for your policy. Okay. Again, why I'm doing that? Because this capital and the labor later will measure cost. Okay. So to be able to measure the production cost, you have to know what is the cost of the capital and what is the cost of the labor. Okay. So let me conclude. We have 3 levels of production. When the uh, production increase or decrease or negative. Graph is not uh, يعني included in our assessment, but it's important to know how we can draw or how we can read any graph. You can see here, this is the first stage, a second stage, and the third stage, right? طيب. It's very important شباب, to know when the graph looking like this, like happy face, so that means it's increasing by increasing rate, يعني وشه لفوق. Okay. When the graph, any graph, increasing by decreasing rate by this way, so still increase. Yes, the graph increase, but here the rate of increasing is lower than before. So here the jumping here by 10, by 15, by 20. Here from 20, it's still increase, yes, but increase by 15, increase by 10, increase by 5, increase by 1. So the way of increasing changed. So this one increasing by increasing rate, this one increasing by decreasing rate. And then, of course, this is decreasing. Okay. So if you check the curve for coronavirus confirmed cases or number of deaths, you will find all over the world nowadays the graph looking like this one. Okay. After it become by this way, it turned to be like this way and then declining. Okay. Is it clear? So this is what we already will cover in the production. So simply 3 stages, and this is uh, the explanation. So it's important for you just to know what we mean by total product, average, and marginal. Number 1, definition, and number 2, how we can understand the production process. We have 3 stages, and if you have an exam or uh, to fill tables like this. Okay. So for instance, it was just one worker and he produced by 18, so the total output should be 18, and the average, of course, will be 18. Okay. Uh, when we have 2 workers together, they produce 40. So if they produce 40 and they are just 2 workers, each one of them on average produce 20. But the contribution of the last worker changed. So the first one produced 18. The second one after he arrived, we able to produce 40. That's mean the second one, huh? Exactly. Increase the production by 12. Okay. When we have three laborers, three workers, on average, each one of them produce 22. That's mean, okay, 22, and we have a three worker. So that's mean the total output will be 66. So if the third one, before he arrived, we produced 40, and now we produce 66. That means the third labor increase the production by how much? Exactly, 26. Where does the 26 come from? It's come from here. The difference between, this is the added value for labor number 3. Before he arrived, we produced 40. After he arrived, we produced 66. That means the last one, which is labor number 3, produced a production by 26. Hope it's clear for you. Okay. So this, I will stop here. So this is the first part, which is related to the production. So again, in the production, just you need to understand three different types of production: the total and average and the marginal, and how we can measure each one of them and the meaning of each one of them, and then to know the process of the production and why we have. Okay. اوكي شباب، وجود لك، ولو في اي حاجة ممكن تبعتوا لي او تبعتوا لمستر محمود في السكشن، وان شاء الله next recording video will be related to the cost. شكرا لكم، واشوفكم على خير ان شاء الله.